The date is November 10th, 2003. The interview is taking place in Burdett, New York. The name of the person being interviewed is Per Navestad. Per was born in Ozone Park, New York. My name is Tom Mailey, and I am a volunteer with the Chemung County Historical Society. Per was in the Navy, achieved the rank of Quartermaster second class, and served in the Atlantic Theater in England and in France. And with that introduction there, I'll turn it over to you. Why did you happen to go in the Navy? How did you happen to go in the service?
Well, my father was in the Merchant Marine, and that was during World War II and even before that. And I felt that I wanted to follow the sea. I thought it would be adventurous, and so that's where I had my thoughts to join the Navy. And I joined when I was 17, and I was enlisted the day before my birthday. My birthday was on Sunday. On Monday, I had to go into service, as a naval training station in Newport, Rhode Island.
And what dates were they?
It was January 16th enlisted. The 17th I was 18, and on the 18th I went into the service, and that was in Newport, Rhode Island. And well.
Now, you went to Newport for basic training?
Basic training, right.
What was basic training like?
Well, the first thing they do is cut your hair off. And it was very cold in January, too. You had to get up very early in the morning, exercise, do calisthenics, take a shower. These are in Quonset huts. We lived in Quonset huts. We went to the mess hall and we had breakfast, and then we were assigned whatever we had to do that day. I don't remember that part very well.
Was that the point that they asked you what you wanted to do during your service?
We took aptitude tests, and when I was, before the service, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I used to signal with semaphore flags back and forth to my friend. He became a signalman in the Navy also, and I became a quartermaster, which also doubles as a signalman. And I guess we had the right aptitude for that. So they sent me to quartermaster school, where I learned a little bit about navigation and more signaling and flags.
Where was quartermaster school?
It was in Newport, Rhode Island also. Yeah.
Well, how long was that?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I mean, a couple of weeks, couple of months?
Six weeks, maybe. I can't remember that.
Just in general, quartermaster to me, unfortunately, means more like a supply kind of thing, but obviously that's not right.
It's not. It has to do with navigation and communication.
Yeah. Okay.
And my job, basically, when I was on my first ship, was to steer the ship. That was the place that they put me, even during general quarters or coming in and out of ports. That was my job, was to steer.
What kind of ship?
LST, landing ship tank.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they needed all the kids they could get, because we were kids. We were out of high school, some of us, some were not. Some were like 15. When they got on our ship, they were like 15 years old. And I know one guy who was 14. But anyway, this was a new branch of the Navy that they had started up, and it was called the Amphibious Forces. We didn't know what it was. They called it Gator, the Gator Navy, alligator, or,
Why is that?
Well, it was land and sea. You went by sea, and then you discharged the cargo, and they went
Kind of went on land.
Right.
How big a ship?
Well, it was the size of a football field in length.
Well,
I think 325 feet. And I don't know exactly what the width was, but it had a tank deck, and it had an upper deck where cargo was carried, trucks, tanks, sometimes aircraft, like a small Piper Cub spotting planes, and a lot of the different Army trucks that they have. We also carried, I'm getting a little ahead of the story, but you want to go back a little bit?
Yeah, fine,
After Quartermaster.
Now we're,
all right.
You do whatever you're comfortable with.
After Quartermaster school, we went to, I guess, Virginia, someplace, where they had the amphibious training base, and we were sent to pick up a ship in, I think the first one was in Pittsburgh, and we were a nucleus crew. We went along just to get the training from the crew that actually took over the ship, and we went from Pittsburgh down to New Orleans via the Ohio River and the Mississippi River, and then when we got to New Orleans, then we went back again, and we were sent to pick up our own ship. In the meantime, we practiced steering, we practiced whatever we had to do, and so we picked up a little bit of knowledge. So now, we are the nucleus crew, and I am 18 years old, and I'm in charge of this crew, and we have to go now and pick up our own ship, which was in Evansville, Indiana. And it was the LST-499.
Did it have a name?
No.
No name.
At that time, they had no names.
Okay.
It's LST-499. And we picked up more crew members there. There was only 7 of us, the nucleus, the salts, the old salts, you know. And we taught them what we knew, and we learned on the way. It was on-the-job training.
Where did you take the ship to from Evansville?
From Evansville, we went down the Ohio River again to the Mississippi and down to New Orleans. And then we, down there, we practiced in the Gulf of Mexico. We made practice landings on Panama City, Florida. And finally, we went back, and then we were on our way to the European theater. We didn't know which way we were going, Atlantic or Pacific, because you can go either way. So we went up the Atlantic, we went to Brooklyn, in New York, and we picked up an LCT, an LCT, landing craft tank, which was put on the upper deck, and lashed down, and we took that over to England with us when we went. But also the ship was loaded with all kinds of trucks, and whatever they wanted to send over. And we picked up more men. We picked up, I believe, the crew of the LCT. And we went from New York, we went to the Cape Cod Canal. We went up to Boston and Halifax, and then we picked up a convoy from Halifax to, first stop was Scotland, and then Milford Haven, and then around to Plymouth, Falmouth, Plymouth, and we did a lot of training on the south coast of England.
How long did it take you to go from, for instance, from Brooklyn? I mean,
from Brooklyn to Boston, I don't know, a day or so.
Was it 30 knots?
Oh no, it's like 9 knots. Top speed.
Oh, really?
Top speed.
How was it out in the middle of the ocean, the stability-wise?
Oh, it rocked. It bent in the middle. It bounced.
A lot of people get seasick.
Oh, yeah. Quite a few.
Yeah.
And we did have a general porter sound on our trip across because we thought we saw a ship on fire, and it just turned out to be the moon coming up. So, but you know, you have to keep your eyes open.
Were you on the same ship during your whole service career?
Oh no, we picked up the ship in January of '44, and on June 8th, 1944, 2 days after the Normandy invasion, we hit a mine and it sank.
Oh.
And that was the end of the 499. And from there I went to, like a rest camp in England, where we had to unload ships and ammunition and things like that. And then until I was reassigned to USS Donnell, which if you turn around and look at that photograph there, that's the one on the left. Yeah, that was a destroyer escort that had already been torpedoed the previous April. And I guess I was there at the end of June to pick that ship up in Ireland. And 60 feet of the stern of that ship was cut away because it was destroyed. And it was just towed. It was like a barge, and it was towed from place to place.
What did they use it for?
Well, they used it to generate electricity for the peninsula.
Oh, really?
I forget the name. Carentan Peninsula in France, where Cherbourg is located. Because they towed us to first to England, and then they towed us across to Cherbourg after it had been taken. And I stayed there for a year. But I have never been to any reunions for the Donnell. I seem to have felt closer to the 499, you know?
Yeah.
And
what did you do in the Donnell as an assignment?
as a quartermaster?
Yeah.
Well, because on the other ship I steered,
Yeah.
I had to do with communication and navigation. But on this ship, I wound clocks, I put up the flag and took it down at the end of the day, and I went for the mail. And that's it.
Well, it's in a way it's a good assignment, and in a
Well,
way
it was all right.
time passes kind of slowly, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, how did you happen to end up as the, steering person? I mean, how do they choose people to do certain jobs when everybody's relatively new?
Well, I guess it was what I could do best. Here I was 18 when was I 18 when I got on? Yeah, I was 18 when I got on that ship. And I had never used a gasoline-powered engine of any type. I couldn't drive, but here I am. I'm driving an LST now, and it's quite a responsibility.
Is it difficult to do?
No, it's not difficult. We trained people who were interested in doing that. It's difficult when you have to change course and you may turn too far and the ship may get out of, go further than you wanted to go.
Overcompensate.
You have to overcompensate for it. But what we need to get back to is LSD 499 before the invasion, because 6 weeks before the invasion, we were in the exercise Tiger, which was a training mission on the south coast of England. And that's where the most excitement took place, because that's when we were hooked up with a convoy T4, and we were the last 3 ships to join that convoy. That one came from Plymouth, and we were adding our 3 ships onto the end of that. There were 8 ships altogether. And we were to go around in circles in the English Channel until the early morning hours when we was to make a landing on Slapton Sands on the south coast of England. And that night, it was after midnight, there was a lot of confusion because we didn't have all the information we were supposed to have. Usually they'll give the officers or the captain a big envelope, and all you need to know is in that envelope, and you don't open it until you leave, you know. But they didn't have all the information. They forgot to give us the frequency that the radio station was supposed to monitor, the radio man. And I have a book here, it's called Exercise Tiger. I didn't know about this stuff until like in the early 90s. See, when all our married life, we didn't have a television. And this was kept under secret for 40 years, this information. So in 1984, it was released, Freedom of Information Act, I guess. But we didn't know about it because we didn't have a television set. This stuff was on the History Channel, I guess. I did find out about it once I joined the LST Association. And
well, was Exercise Tiger the kind of code name for the invasion of Normandy?
It was for this training. It was training for the landing on Utah Beach. And that is where we did land, on Utah Beach. The training took more lives than the actual landing on the beach, on Utah Beach.
As far as 499 goes, or as far as...
No, 499 did not get damaged on that. There were 3 other ships that were torpedoed.
During training exercises?
During the training exercises, right.
So the Germans were aware that you were training?
No, they didn't know.
Well, they just left you out there?
They sent some these surface torpedo boats. We called them E-boats, but they were Schnell boats, fast boats. Yeah. And they sent them out from Cherbourg, I think, and because they thought there was a lot of radio traffic, and they wanted to go out and see what's going on, you know. So they went out, and after midnight, they met up with our convoy. We couldn't see them. They're painted black, and it was dark at night. And the people in England, watching on the radar screens, could watch the whole thing. But there was no way they could tell us what was going on because we didn't have the right radio frequency. So, and another thing was we had one British escort. We were supposed to have 2, but the other one was damaged slightly, and the harbor master would not let it go out, even though it was supposed to be go without convoy. So we had one escort, and he was far ahead, and these E-boats were behind us. And I believe we were the first one to be attacked. 499. We were the 3rd ship up from the end, but the stern gunner saw the torpedo wake in the water because it's like a fluorescent line in the water, and he notified the bridge that a torpedo was approaching, and the man on the bridge said, hard left rudder. That was my job now. Hard left rudder. We turned it all the way over to the left. And then we had to wait for it to start to turn. And it didn't turn very fast. And then you could hear everybody on the bridge yelling, hard left rudder. And eventually it did. It did turn, and I just kept it that way. And we did get out of the way of the torpedo. I think it came alongside about 12 feet away from the hull. And I think also another torpedo crossed across our hull, across the bow, And we missed them both. But in that turn, as we made that turn, then I heard a big explosion, and that was the ship at the very end, the 507. And that was torpedoed and broke in two, and a lot of lives were lost there. And as we're continuing this maneuver to get out of the way of our torpedo, then there was another explosion, two more, because that was the 531, which was ahead of us. And that one, I believe, broke in two also.
Did you know people on both of those ships?
I know, no, not personally, not at that time, but afterwards. The signalman from the 531 was part of the crew of the Donnell, USS Donnell, that we joined in Ireland. And he told me what went on from his vantage point. But anyway, I couldn't see much. You know, from the wheelhouse, you just have these little portholes to look out. And I could see the ship burning. I could see 531 burning, and it's not a nice sight.
How close to that was, in time, was that to the invasion?
6 weeks before.
6 weeks. But how did they change their strategy after this disaster?
They couldn't even send out anyone to help us because they didn't want to disclose that they had all these people building up forces for the invasion. And as far as the Germans thought, they thought it was just
an exercise?
No, not an exercise. They thought it was just freighters going, you know, to deliver materials someplace.
So on your ship at that point, all you had was the crew that was operating the ship?
No, we had fully loaded. We had troops. We had the trucks, all live ammunition, lots of gasoline, because that's what made them burn.
Yeah.
And because we were going to make a landing on Slapton Sands, and it was going to be, they told us in the beginning it was going to be very real, not to be surprised at what was going to happen. And so we thought, when this first started, we didn't have the torpedo first. We got to go back a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
The first thing that happened was tracer bullets lit up the sky and was shot across, well, over our ship. And it was really something to see. It was yellow, green, red lines going across the sky. And what they wanted was for us to shoot back. And that may have been why these other ships were pinpointed. We did not fire back, but I think the first torpedo was sent at us. But then when they started firing back and forth, it was easy to see where the firing was coming from, and then they let go with the torpedoes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't know this until I read about it in the book.
Why did they keep this under wraps so long, do you think?
Well, it was top secret. They did not want the people back home to know about it. Because, and it was just before the invasion. And so we were warned not to talk about it, or we would be court-martialed. And we'd forget about it after a while.
What was your role in the invasion, the actual invasion? The role of your ship, or?
Well, it was to bring over the men and material, the trucks and things. We did not actually beach the ship on during the invasion. We stayed away from the shore, and the cargo was taken off on barges, and they were brought in. And then we were loaded up with wounded from the beach, and we were going to take them back to England for treatment. In fact, they even treated them on the LST.
How old were you at this point?
19.
So what was your, outside of saying, what the hell have I got myself into? I mean, what was your reaction to all of this kind of an environment of wounded and firing guns at you?
Well, I thought thought it might be nice to live in the country and have a garden, you know?
Or live long
And
enough to live
that's where we are now, so
Yeah.
that's what we've got. That exercise tiger was, I guess, even more exciting to us than the invasion actually was. But then going back from the invasion, we started out with the wounded, and we struck a mine, and that was it.
Now, where did you strike that? I mean, where on the ship did the mine hit?
It was on in the left. It was right underneath where the latrine is, and the engine room, and the head, I should say. Not latrine.
Yeah.
But the men in the engine room did not do very well.
So there were casualties as a result?
Oh yeah, there was about 12 killed.
Really?
Yeah.
How many people were on the ship throwing a party?
A little over 100 was the crew, but when you have the ship loaded up, it was more like 500 or more.
What, did the ship sink?
Well, it did sink, but it sank in shallow water, so you can see in that picture, it was always visible, you know, when the tide would, that's it.
Yeah.
So when the tide would go out, more of it would be showing.
How did you get off?
Another ship came alongside and took us off. It was before it had settled to the ground.
How long did the invasion take in days? Did this go on over a period of days, weeks, the invasion of Normandy?
Oh yeah, but for me it took 2 days. That's all it took for me.
And at that point you were relocated back to England?
Yeah, they took us back to England, and then of course I went back to France to be with the other ship that generated electricity.
And you were on there how long?
Over a year.
So how long were you in the service?
Altogether 3 years, I think, in a few days. Yeah.
And you were in Europe most of that time?
Yeah. Overseas.
Yeah. Were you with the same crew a lot?
Well, the first crew, it was only 6 months. And the next crew, it was a year. And after that, we were split up again.
Yeah. But you were on this, while you were on was it the 966?
499.
499. You were on that for
6 months.
6 months, and the same crew was on there all the time?
Yeah, well, new ones would come on, not to stay with the ship, but the small boat crew that came on. There was another crew that operated balloons, you know, to keep the aircraft away. Then there was the crew of the LCT. Well, we dumped the LCT off in England, so they went over by themselves.
Yeah. How long were you in the service after you got back from overseas, or did you come back from overseas?
Well, when we came back, see, we were being towed now from place to place.
Yeah.
So when we were in France, when the war ended in Europe. And so after that, I remember the German ships coming in with the sailors, the Navy personnel, dressed in their dress uniforms, standing on the deck, you know, with the American flag flying above the swastika, and they came into the harbor. And after that, VE Day, we were taken to England, and then they were going to tow us back to Philadelphia, and we were going to be fixed up for the invasion of Japan. So once we started, we were towed across the Atlantic. About halfway across, the tow line broke. It was an Army tug, by the way.
Oh my God.
Nobody was watching. The tow line broke, and so the tugboat went over the horizon, and there was nobody, we couldn't see anyone around, and we're bobbing there, and they took that opportunity to fish for sharks.
How long? The tow line must have been pretty long then.
Well, It was fairly long, but, they did find out that they lost their tow, and they came back and got us.
Yeah, I would presume that. Was that cost effective to tow the ship back as opposed to getting it seems like a lot of work, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, they could have left it there maybe for scrap, but they were going to fix it up. They're going to add another 60 feet on it and fix it up. I don't know whether it was cost effective.
Yeah. Well, of course, they didn't think about things like that.
But part of the way over, on our way over, the atom bomb was dropped on Japan, and so now the war is over. So now we don't have to go to Japan. And from Philadelphia, we were just reassigned to different places for discharge, which was very nice.
Now, your